Hi, I'm Paula Ward, and this is Easy Knitting Design. In this video, I'll be talking about shoulder shaping using short rows. If you're not familiar with short rows, I've created a video tutorial showing you how to do them. If you've been following in my other videos, we've worked the sweater body, shaped our armholes, and worked our front V-neck, decreasing on both sides. Now we stopped just an inch short of the top. What we'll do next is use short rows to create a triangle of knitted fabric with a slope that follows the slope of our body. On the right side of our sweater, we'll be starting our short rows on a knit row. We'll knit across, stop before the edge of the armhole, wrap and turn, purl back. Knit another row, wrap and turn, purl back. And on our final row, we'll knit picking up our wraps, turn, purl back, and end at the neck edge. On the left side of our sweater, we'll begin our short rows on a purl row, purl, wrap and turn, knit back, work our rows that way. On the final purl row, we'll pick up our wraps, turn, knit back, and again end at the neck edge. We need to know how many short rows we'll be working, how many stitches in each short row step, and at what point from the armhole edge we start our first short row. So we would write it like this. First we work a certain number of short rows of a certain number of stitches each, starting a certain number of stitches from the armhole edge. The first thing we want to figure out is the height of our slope. And by that I mean the distance from the top neck of our sweater to the top of the armhole. That right there. We can take that right off our measurements chart by looking at our top neck to underarm length and subtracting the armhole depth. That will give us our slope. So our top neck to underarm yarn length minus our armhole depth equals our slope in inches. We need to convert this slope into a number of rows by multiplying it times our row gauge, or rows per inch. That will give us the number of rows in our slope. Every time we work a short row, we use up 2 rows. On this left side, we would work a purl row, wrap and turn, and knit back to work 1 short row. So in order to find out how many short rows are in this slope, we need to take the number of rows in the slope, round it to the nearest even number, and then divide it by 2. And that will be the number of short rows in our shoulder shaping we've just filled in our first blank. In order to find out how many stitches are in each short row step, we need to first find out how many stitches are in our shoulder. We'll start with the number of stitches in the front of our sweater. If we subtract the number of stitches that we decreased for our armhole shaping, and we subtract the number of stitches we decreased for our neckline shaping, the number of stitches left is our number of shoulder stitches. So we'll start with the number of stitches in our front, and remember that's our original cast on for the body divided by 2. We'll subtract the number of armhole shaping stitches, that's the bind off and the armhole decreases, subtract the number of neckline shaping stitches to get our shoulder stitches. Now we'll just divide this number by 2 to get the stitches per shoulder. We now know the number of short rows we'll be working, and we know how many stitches we have in our shoulder. Now we want to know how many stitches per short row. When we're working short rows, this first longest short row does not reach to the armhole edge. We're going to wrap and turn before that. Now here's an example where I'm working 3 short rows. If I were to draw a line at the end of each of these short rows, I would be dividing my shoulder up into 1, 2, 3, 4 sections for 3 short rows. We want to take the number of stitches in our shoulder and divide them as equally as possible among these sections. So we'll take the number of the short rows, add 1 to get our number of sections. Then we're going to take the number of shoulder stitches and divide it by that number of sections to get the number of stitches in each one of these sections. Let's say I have 18 stitches in my shoulder to divide up among 4 sections. If I divide 4 into 18, I get 4, and I'm going to use grade school notation here with a remainder of 2. So 4 stitches in each section and 2 extra stitches that I need to divvy up somehow. So I'll say 4 stitches in each section. I take my last 2 stitches and just start from the edge and work in. So I'll have short rows of 4 stitches, 4 stitches, and 5 stitches, starting 5 stitches from my armhole edge. I have filled in my last 2 blanks. Now, when I work these shoulders, I actually place stitch markers at these 3 points to help me remember when to do my wrap and turn. In part 2, we do the numbers for Nikki's sweater.